My name is Jim West, and I'm the author of the StressLess Educational Series, a school consultant, keynote speaker, and licensed mental health counselor. Welcome to StressLess with Defiance. The reason I'm doing this talk today is because my father and brother have ADHD, and so I became an ADHD expert. What I also found was 66% of Defiance students have ADHD that's not been treated. Often in helping ADHD symptoms, the Defiance symptoms go away. However, there's another 34% of students with Defiance that do not have ADHD. In both situations, the parenting styles of most parents work for 95% of kids, but these kids are in the other 5%, and they need a different approach. The StressLess with Defiance program is going to cover the history of adolescence, how parenting style comes into play, symptoms of defiance or oppositional defiance disorder, triggers to avoid, what defiance can lead to without getting help, how to handle a defiant child or teen, some interventions, how to diffuse them when they're angry, and ways to resolve conflict, repairing hurts in 3 easy steps. So this is our session 1. This talk is really for guidance counselors, it's for teachers, and it's for parents. A lot of schools, guidance counselors actually counsel families. They counsel families, they don't just do schedules for kids and help them get into college. So there are some guidance counselors that are here today that will also want to be able to give tools to parents, like how to work with oppositional kids. So sometimes in doing this seminar, people will, think that, well, that's a parent tool. Oh, that's a parent tool. I want teachers' tools. Well, we're going to give you teachers' tools, but we also want you to be able to give tools to the parents, if that makes sense. So we're going to be covering that. We're going to cover parenting style and how different parenting styles come into play in creating oppositional behaviors. The general symptoms of oppositional defiant disorder, and then the history of adolescence is really important, like understanding when did that begin and how that creates sometimes stubborn oppositional behavior. Defiant symptoms in girls, adolescent girls. Have you noticed that it's a little different in girls than it is boys? So we're going to talk a little bit about that too. And then we're going to talk about the oppositional no-nos. And no is actually a play on words. And we're going to talk about how no can be a trigger. Have you seen that before? You tell them no and they freak out. So we're going to talk about how to say no less, but still get them to do what they need to do. So let's talk about the history of adolescence. And this is an interactive seminar. So tell me, when did adolescence begin? It began, a lot of people think that adolescence begins at a certain age, but it actually had a beginning in time. Before the Industrial Revolution, when did people get married? 15, 16. Remember Romeo and Juliet? When you read that now, you go, 13 and 14 years old? That's just nuts. But as soon as they hit puberty, they can reproduce. They're biologically adults. And that's kind of scary, isn't it? But they're biologically adults when they hit puberty. And so, so from the beginning of time until the Industrial Revolution, people got married shortly after their sex drive kicked in. That was puberty. As soon as they could reproduce. So we didn't have all this sexual tension at home. True love waits. Please wait. You can get diseases, you can get pregnant, all this stuff. You're constantly telling them to wait, but their hormones are kicking in, right when they hit puberty. But they got married right away. They got married very quickly after that. Can you imagine back then? When before the Industrial Revolution, what would happen was when kids would feel that sense of independence and feel like, I want to do my own thing, I want to get out there, I want to be on my own, and they would tell Dad, hey Dad, you're running the farm the wrong way. Because 98.5% of America back then was farming. And by the way, you already knew how to run a farm. You knew how to, by the time you were 13, you worked the farm from the time you could walk. And if you didn't work, you didn't eat. So they already knew how to take care of themselves. And by the way, did we have self-esteem problems back then? Because every time they sat down and they looked at that meal, I made that bread. I butchered that pig for that bacon. They all did something. They had amazing self-worth and self-esteem because they contributed to the family. Well, what do you think happened after the Industrial Revolution? They passed laws saying you had to go to school, you had to stay home, all these different things. But before the Industrial Revolution, when you started to feel that sense of independence, what would you do? You'd tell Dad, hey Dad, I think you're running the farm the wrong way. But you know what was interesting? It wasn't rebellion. The farmer would say, honey, did you hear that? He's telling me I'm not running the farm the right way. And then you would hear her yell out, oh, it sounds like he's a man. Right? And then he would say, son, I'm really proud of you. There's a door, and don't let it hit you on the butt on the way out. And then, because he knew that it was already hard enough to have another adult to agree on. Him and his wife have trouble to agree on things. Now we have a teenager that's now an adult who's going to tell me how to run my farm. So he had some wisdom back then to say, oh, well then you know what, you can use this part of I'm going to give you this property over here, I'm going to let you live in the loft, and you can use my plow at sundown. How's that sound? And then maybe after a few weeks he'd say, you know what Dad, I like the way you run the farm. And he might come back. Or maybe after a couple of years Dad would die and the son would move in and take over the farm. But now what's changed with the Industrial Revolution? We're making kids stay home. Can you imagine when the marshal came and told Farmer Bill, sir, you can't kick your kid out of the house. Here he is. He brings him back by the collar. What? No, he's got to go to, and by the way, he's also got to go to school. What? My kids have to go to school? I've got 15 kids. Why do you think I have 15 kids? Because he loves kids? That's his workforce. So can you imagine that? And then of course the kids are having to get up in the morning real early to do their chores and then go to school and then come back and do more chores till the sun went down, and then they had to do their homework and they had to help with all the meals and everything, and then they had to do it all over again the next day. So this is, so now just kind of play this out. These guys are having to stay home. They're biologically adults. They're 16 now, they're saying they're adults instead of 13. And then eventually, of course, we moved it to 18. And then it was a drinking age of 21. But have they changed biologically? Are they still hitting puberty around the same time? Some maybe earlier because of the hormones we put in our foods. So now we still have this feeling of independence. And hormones are raging. And they're wanting to be with this guy all the time or this girl all the time, And we're constantly reeling them back in. And we're controlling them, basically. We're telling them, no, you can't. Come on, come back home. And you need to be home at a certain time, and you need to go to bed because you got to be at school in the morning. And you have to go to school, and if you don't make them go to school, the police officer is going to take you and put you in jail if you don't make sure they go to school. So I mean, so this is where, does that help you? Does that help to understand, with understanding the history of adolescence, it helps us understand where they're coming from. So then we have to look at how we parent. We have to look at our parenting style. We used to be that you just parented a child and then they became an adult. There wasn't this period of adolescence. What is adolescence? It's a period of adjusting between being a child and being a complete adult. Well, what's a complete adult? That's somebody who takes care of themselves, who pays all their bills. Biologically, they're an adult. Socially, they're an adult. Economically, they're an adult. And how often? When does that happen now? 26. You know what's interesting? With Obamacare, they just extended the health benefits for adults, really, but they're young adults, basically, to 26 now. It used to be, what, 23? Now it's 26 that they can stay on your insurance plan. Why? Because they need more and more. Every generation, it seems like we need more and more education to be self-sufficient and independent.